Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Tuesday. Welcome to another round of the breakdown. I'm pretty pumped today. It's been a while, but I got Brian versus the books back with me. How you doing, man?
I feel like it's been forever, and I think it has been forever, actually.
It's
I
it's
think
been a little while, but you've been a busy
I
man.
forget. Yeah, it's because I'm wearing my Phillies jersey. That's how long it is. Because we're back to like baseball. That's crazy.
There was definitely no baseball last time we were talking, or even like certainty of having it the last time we talked.
Yeah. There was not even like a glimpse of if it was ever going to be a thing.
Yep, absolutely. Well, hey man, let's jump into these games. I know it's a short slate. We'll talk a little bit at the end too about some of the fun stuff you've been doing on Twitter, but let's talk through these games first. First up, we have the Grizzlies at the Pacers. Memphis is -7.5, and the total right now is at 233.5. What are your thoughts when you're looking at this game?
See, this is one too where like this is the one game where I think what was it? There was some injury news last night too with
Morant is doubtful.
Yeah, Morant is now doubtful. And it's like it's interesting where there's no lines in this game and you don't even know who's gonna be in, which is a kind of a crazy like I haven't like really capped this game at all because the lineups could be anything. Like it really like I don't know if you have anything for this game, but yeah, I don't even know who's starting. Like
Right. Because Dylan Brooks should be back, so he's likely starting. Who tends to chuck a lot when Morant's not in there, well, maybe anytime, but and then honestly, Indiana has a bunch of people who are game time decisions too. Brogdon, Duarte, Batadze, all those guys are game time decisions. So the one thing I'll share that I thought was interesting. So this is one of those funny things with numbers sometimes, is like Ja Morant's been amazing and Memphis is better because they have him. But if you look at just the numbers, their offensive rating this year with him is 114.3. Without him, it's 116.5. So two better without him than with him. And then this is the big one. Defensive rating with Morant, 112.2. Without Morant, 100. So 12.2 different in defensive rating when he's now, again, I'm not saying it's going to hold exactly, but I just think the value of Ja Morant in a 1, 2, 3 game sample, I do think can be overstated.
No, yeah, I get that a lot. And also I haven't like broke down the whole numbers yet, but I imagine the pace has got to be slower as well because the way that guy flies around the court, I'd imagine. Like, I don't know if you know what the pace is like.
Yeah. So it's 1.2 slower.
Okay, so not much slower. Okay, that's I mean, I was just wondering like from just like a casual watch him fly like.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It does feel that way for sure.
Yeah, so this is a game where I really don't have much on. I'm not sure if you wanted to like had anything on it, because I can't really have much on it because there are 0 props available. So
that makes it harder.
As a prop guy, it's very hard to like break down a slate when there's like I think DraftKings just added them at like 11. My friend said, and it's all just Pacers ones. There's no because Morant's thing is.
Okay. I'll be interested to see what you come up with later today because I do think Ja being out definitely opens up a lot of usage. So that'll be interesting.
The fact that doubtful is always funny because like whenever you see doubtful, it's like, oh, he's not playing. And then like all of a sudden, like 10 minutes before the game, you'll get like an underdog alert.
Totally.
Like, yeah, Ja Morant plans to be active. And it's like, well, that sucks.
Yep. Totally. Yeah, man. So on this game, like, and I could share a bunch of numbers, but really, like, what we know is Indiana has played a lot of high scoring games. They're terrible on defense since the trade and since the All-Star break, and they're okay on offense. Actually, they tend to just play a lot of high scoring games. So in this one, I actually did play the over, and then after I did my full analysis, I was like, shit, I don't know if I would like. I kind of capped it around 233, so I'm like right on the line, but. Yeah. Anyway, I had already bet it at that point. And I don't hate Memphis here either. Like, I actually think they should beat Indiana by 10.
Yeah.
They've just been a little less trustworthy in the last couple weeks than they were before that.
Yeah. And like this is one of those games that's like a 4-game slate, which I'm happy about because I feel like the NBA needs to figure out their whole whatever. They'll have like 16 games and then 2. And it just like you see like a 4 to 6 game slate, and I always think, man, if I could just break down the props of a 4 to 6 game slate every day, it'd be a blessing. And then you have you see St. Patrick's Day, where St. Patrick's Day there's one game. It's the Pistons Magic, like the worst game in the entire world. Like I mean, good for Vegas because they're gonna go from 0 props taken on that game to like all the props.
That's right.
If
Every single player.
that game was on a 7-game slate, I guarantee you everyone's just skipping over it in their like betting whatever. But that game, oh, there's gonna be a lot of volume on that game now for no reason.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, we'll watch what you come up with later in the day on that one. Next up, we'll do the Nets at the Magic. Brooklyn -9.5, 232.5 total. Obviously, this is away, so it is a Kyrie can play game. What do you think about this one?
So honestly, I don't ever ban players or this or that, but I am very wary of the Nets because unless your name is Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving, your minutes could be between 1 and 48. So that's like one thing to keep in mind. But one of the interesting guys I was looking at, I haven't taken anything in this game yet, but I was looking at Andre Drummond, who is like one of the more volatile like people in terms of is he gonna play or is he not gonna play? But his split since leaving Philly to go to Brooklyn, I mean they've all increased. So in Philly, he was averaging 18.4 minutes a game. Brooklyn, he's up to 21.6. So what's that? 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes is a lot of time. His points from Philly have gone from 6.1 to 10.7, and he's averaging what was it? 0.8 more rebounds a game. So he's averaging 21 points / rebounds per game for the Brooklyn Nets. And this is an interesting matchup because you get the Orlando Magic that run the Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba, the 2 centers. So what I like to look at is a team like the Magic and the Timberwolves are like my favorite target spot sometimes because they run 2 bigs, but they also can't rebound well. Like not saying that Wendell Carter is a bad rebounder. I'm not saying that at all. He's actually an excellent player. I like Wendell Carter a lot. But it's interesting that the Timberwolves and the Magic's rebound rate is so poor compared to the rest of the league, despite people thinking, oh, they got 2 centers. They're going to like grab every rebound, of course. But the reason I target them a lot is because you have to match up with their size. So if you have a guy like Andre Drummond, you need him out there to match up with that, 2 center lineup. But that combined with the bad rebound rate puts him in a good position where in games on the Nets where he's seen 23 or more minutes, he's over this 21.5 point / rebound line 4 of those 5. And the games he played 23 plus minutes were the Knicks, and Milwaukee. That's 3 of them, right? So that's kind of that whole you got to match up with their bigs. And then Charlotte for some reason, because apparently they're worried about Mason Plumlee. I don't know about that one.
Right, I know that's a weird one.
It's a weird one. And then the
Sacramento. Yeah.
So, but that was also his first game. So I wonder if they were just trying to give him a run in a game that's against, the Kings. And then the games he's under 20 minutes are Miami, Washington, Toronto, and Boston. Boston, he had some foul trouble. But yeah, if you think of like Washington, post Trez, and Toronto, 2 smaller clubs, 2 smaller teams. So the minutes could be there in a game where he has to match up with that size. So he was one I was looking at for sure.
Yeah, man, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, and even he was under that in the Philly game too, but I like other people watched that game and he just got into foul trouble there. So that was why he got cut down in that game.
40. Yeah, I mean that was a bad game for me as a Sixers fan, but yeah, I mean he was in foul trouble early, but I actually had his under in that game because I figured he was going to get into foul trouble with Joel Embiid. And he actually gave me a scare, not really because he only had like 3 sets a half, but his run in the third quarter gave me a little bit of a scare because he was grabbing, I think he grabbed like 5 boards and like he put 3 putbacks in like that third quarter. And he never like got there because of the blowout. But I was watching that with my friend and I was like, dude, is he going to like somehow backdoor this? Because we were at half thinking, okay, we're getting blown out and he's already at like 3 stats. But yeah, so.
Yeah, man. Another thing I like, I'm not the prop guy and I'm really upfront about saying that, though I've been like looking at stuff more because it's intriguing. But the other thing that's interesting with him is he does have some games where he really pops off. Like since he came to Brooklyn, he's got 11 twice, 17, 20, 18 in terms of points, and then rebounds 10, 14, 12. So like he can go big kind of,
Yeah, he can go off. I mean, I've watched him enough this season in Philly too, where he can have these games where he'll play 12 minutes and he'll get 13 boards, and you're just like he vacuums them up. I mean, there's some
Yep.
centers in the league that I classify him with the old school Clint Capella, like JaVale McGee. There's some guys that just are so at the rim 24/7, just like planted there like a tree that they just grab every board and they just vacuum him up. He's one of those guys where if he gets into a groove and you're missing shots, and the Magic are pretty good at missing shots. So that's one right there where he could have a big game, but then you have to worry about, is he going to play? But the trends of him mashing up big to big are definitely there, which is kind of why I'm looking at him today.
It's great. I like it. In terms of like sides or total, actually, one of my favorite I don't have tons of bets I love today, to be honest, but one of my favorites is the under in this game. And it's because if you look, Orlando's actually been playing decent lately. Like I had it somewhere here, their margin of victory or loss, 8-6, lost by 3, lost 1 by 28. So that's huge. But
Yeah.
1 by 6, 16-8. So they're 5-5 in their last 10. And even the games they're losing outside of that one game have all been close. And I can definitely see this being a letdown spot for Brooklyn too, against not a very good team after some of the big games they've just had.
The Magic hang around. Like I think
they do.
I think we talked about this last time I was on the show. It was like some teams like the Magic and Rockets, they might not cover a spread. Actually, it was the Magic we were talking about because that was a game against Philly where they were winning the whole game. And then they blew it at the end. So there's some teams that are perfect. Yeah. Even in a 10-point spread, they can hang around a lot. And I don't know if it's conspiracy theory here, but I swear there's some games, man, where you see these teams that are clearly like flopping or tanking or whatever it is, that you'll see them. Like last night with the Thunder. The Thunder were up like what, 20 points to like
in the first quarter, yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh, we lost by 30. I guess like I'm not saying that, but it's just like it's kind of interesting that like sometimes near the end of the year you'll see teams be competitive for the first half and then take their loss, get closer to the lottery, and then move on.
Yeah. And that's where the spread here. I actually, if anything, would like the Magic on this spread, but it's harder to play it. But I just can really see this being like Orlando's not scoring more than like 102 to 108 most of the time. And I could see Brooklyn just kind of coasting and winning this game like 113 or 115 to 105. Like they win, but it's not a blowout. And at 232.5, I do think there's a little value on the under for this game.
No, I get that. And then we also kind of mentioned the Kyrie thing, which is interesting enough. Drummond sees more minutes with Kyrie. I forgot to mention that. For some reason, in the 4 games with Kyrie, he's seen 29, 24, 17, 21. So that's kind of a cool like tidbit. Because like with Kyrie it's kind of funny because even I mentioned unless your name is Kyrie or Kevin Durant, like you're not going to see minutes. Kevin Durant's points line is 28.5, which at first I was shocked to see it below that 29, 30.5. But then I checked, in 3 of his last 9 games and 4 of his last 10 games, he's over 20.5 in 4 of his last 10. But 3 of them were with no Kyrie. So that's interesting to think about. So 28.5. So 4 out of 10 on paper is even like a lot of red. But 3 of those games he didn't have Kyrie in the lineup. So I mean that's like 1 out of the last 7 games he's gone over that with Kyrie in the lineup. So I'm not sure if I'm the guy that's going to get roasted on Twitter for taking a Kevin Durant under when he dropped 60 tonight, but that's just like an interesting. I think there's sometimes you can find good trends, good numbers where I won't play the under, but I sure as hell won't like try to play the over, thinking that it's Kevin Durant.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So there's
Do you know what his assist line is?
I can check real quick. His assist.
I'm just trying to pull it up here too.
6.5.
6.5. Just that was something that I had heard pointed out before, is that he actually tends to have more assists when he plays with Kyrie as well. And I was just looking back at the games, and it's like 7, 7, 8, 9, 5 in the last 5 games. So
he is turning into quite the PRA like monster.
Yeah.
He's like the craziest things. And I know you're like sometimes you ride like the some like fun parlays, and I'm not sure if I'm doing this, but I was looking into like plus 300 for Wendell Carter and Andre Drummond to have double doubles like each.
Nice.
So that's when I might sprinkle on, only because Wendell Carter has a double double, has like 10 plus rebounds in 9 of his last 10 games, and
Wow.
I think we're getting his over 10.5 rebounds is plus, I think, 115. I think he's getting great odds for someone that has 7 rebounds in his last. He has 11 plus rebounds in 7 of his last 10 games, but he had horrible success versus the Nets. So far this year against the Nets, Wendell Carter has grabbed 5 and 9 rebounds, but he's only played 18 and 27 points. And I remember watching the film of those games where he did not match up well with the small ball lineup, and Mo Bamba had better runs. So it's kind of interesting to think that like a parlay like that for each to have a double-double might correlate, because the fact that Drummond's now on this team will probably help Carter play more of his game of just, matching up with the big and having to run small ball. Because if you're running small ball, Mo Bamba is the stretch big you want to have out there, like more of a run. So it's kind of an interesting one to think that might be something I like sprinkle on for fun for like plus 300.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought up the stuff against Brooklyn specifically, but I just went and looked, and Wendell Carter has a double-double in 9 out of his last 10 games. So, I mean, it's happening pretty much every time at the moment. So
yeah, and like I said, I think he gets like a better matchup against Drummond than he did against the Claxton-led, like, small ball Nets team he had in the past.
Yep. Love it, man. All right. Very good. So, Drummond, Carter, and then for me, the under on this game as well. Next up, we got Pistons at the Heat. Pistons have been playing pretty decent lately. They are 12.5-point dogs in this one, total of 216.5. How do you think this one will go?
This is I have no clue. No, so this one is interesting because I was looking at certain props, and obviously any of the Pistons unders could look good against like a Heat team, because this is a big pace down spot and the Heat are just such a good defensive team. I was kind of looking at Jeremy Grant's under, but there was just the lines that I saw, because I think Cade's at 19.5 points, Jeremy Grant's at 18.5 points, Sadiq Bey's at 15.5 points. I think the Pistons like to do this thing where they pick which one of the 3 will have 40 and the other 2 will have 9. So I don't really like anything in that. Like, I'm going to look at it more because I know there's been some good trends for Jeremy Grant's under. But the one thing I was looking at in this, which might turn out to be a popular play, I don't know. I'm not taking this yet, but I was looking at Tyler Hero's over 20.5, 21.5. I mean, in those last nine of his last 10 games, he scored 20 or more points, which is kind of crazy. He's on this scoring run. Because like the Heat are a weird team where like, I'm convinced they just keep Tyler Hero on the bench so he can win 6 man of the year at this point.
Yeah. That seems like
he plays like 38 minutes and like he's just like, yeah, I'm a bench player. Okay, like no, but he does run a lot of the starters in the bench. He's a very talented player. But yeah, he's over 21.5 in 7 of his last 10. He's over 20.5, so right there in 9 of his last 10. And against Detroit, he has 31 and 29 points against them this year. Because the Pistons hate playing defense. But yeah, so and like his field goal volume for the season is at 17.4 field goals per game. And Cade Cunningham's now questionable with an illness. See, this is why I don't cap games early.
Oh, he is. Wow.
It just came out. Like okay. Because now if he doesn't play, if I took Jeremy Grant's under, I would have felt like nervous all day.
For sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so he averaged 4 more field goal attempts against Detroit than he does like on the season. And the Pistons are 27th ranked against shooting guards. And he's just on one of those shooting runs where I would not want to take it over. I mean, he's under right now. I'm not sure if you follow on Twitter. Do you know Devin's Bookie? He's one of the bigger guys. He's really talented. Yeah, awesome guy. I'll give him all the credit in the world because it's the funniest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. But I don't know if you're aware, but he bets on Tyler Hero every Tuesday. He calls him listen, he's hilarious. We talk a lot. We talk a lot of Suns basketball. We talk a lot of so like this is not me. This is a trend that I've like found because of him. But yeah, he bets on Tyler Hero every Tuesday. He goes on Tyler Tuesdays, and he's been doing it for a while. And this might shock you, but I'm gonna like run through this. This is Tyler Hero's points per game on the days of the week, right? Monday it's 19. Wednesday it's 19.2. Thursday 22.7. He likes the T days. Friday it's 20.3, Saturday 22, Sunday 12. On Tuesdays, he averaged 26.5 points per game.
Wow.
So Tyler Tuesdays is a thing. Apparently, it's a real trend. I mean, you're talking 4 to 6 points more on Tuesdays than any other day of the week.
That's wild.
I don't know if it means anything, but when he originally started this, like as like a thing you would do, you'd have Wendell Carter Wednesdays, Tyler Tuesdays. I try to reach out with like Fred VanVleet Fridays, but that didn't work out because Fred VanVleet never likes to be consistent sometimes. But yeah, so that Devin's rookie, give him a follow. He doesn't even know I'm bringing this up, but that was just like a point that I highlighted because I knew it was Tuesday, and then I looked into the trend and I was like, wow, like he's got some good history of the last 10 games. So that was the one problem. Funniest
That's
trend.
crazy.
Yeah.
Let me throw one other prop at you just to see what your reaction is. So, let me pull this up here. So Detroit is third worst in the league at opponent rebounding, and this is so another guy that I have on sometimes, DGen Eli. He does a site that's his site's great. And so one of the things that I took from his site today was rebounding against, where are we at here? Against Detroit for shooting forwards. So that would be PJ Tucker. And when I went and looked at PJ Tucker's game log for rebounds, like he's at 6+ 50% of the time or so. And 6 or more is plus 144. So I was wondering about that potentially as a spot as well.
Yeah, I like that. What's his line today? Because it's all closed because now there's
shoot.
Yeah. So
they'll open it back up at like minus 180. I don't know.
Yeah. What was the line he had going? Because I know he's been rebounding a lot recently.
Yeah. So the line was probably 4.5 or 5.5. I just looked at the 6 or more, and that was plus 144 for 6 or more. So
yeah, I'm looking at his log right now too. I mean, it looks like he's hitting 6 or under 4 anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
He's either really active or really not active, which is funny.
Which is weird. Yeah, he has a game where he had 1, although he only played 19 minutes in that game too. So
yeah, I mean, PJ Tucker's. I mean, my biggest thing with PJ Tucker too is it'd be a matter of I wonder who he'd be guarding in that game, like matching up on defense, because I like taking, like at that point I like to try to like cap on who I think the defensive matchup would be, because if he's a guy like Cade that's taking all the shots, if he's closing out on the perimeter, he's going to be in less rebounding positions. But if Cade doesn't play, that actually may be big, because Jeremy Grant. And then again, Jeremy Grant chucks up a lot of shots too. The Pistons are weird, man. Like they're a strange team. So that I think that's going to depend, because I like that prop, but I think it'll depend to see who the Pistons are even running out there now, because with Cade all of a sudden with illness, because illness is a weird thing too, because like you don't even know how to gauge that. Like if I'm like tracking someone with like a sore foot, you can kind of get the beat writers and be like, oh, they're tracking the play, they practiced this morning. But yeah, I don't know. Illness kind of throws a wrench in that.
It does. Yeah, so that throws a wrench in too. Like without going into all the stats, I actually like the Pistons at earlier it was plus 13.5. That just feels like too much to me with the way that they've been playing, and the fact that in a low scoring game, the spread is less likely to be as wide. But if Cunningham's out, that kind of throws some doubt on that too.
I feel like the spread to like a 13-point spread to me, because it's back to 13 now. That does kind of like pique your interest, only because the way the Heat play, defensive grind out, slow basketball. Yeah, I'm not saying they can't blow out teams, but I mean that's still a lot of points to give for a team that's not the Nets, like flying down the court or trying to like up the pace ever. Like when the Heat play with the lead, they really slow down that pace. They get Kyle Lowry back, and he's really good at slowing the pace, kind of like game management. So that just seems like a lot of points. Oh, the over-under just dropped to 213.5 as we were talking.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah. So I wonder if I like. It's funny because I feel like they know if they're playing and they just wait on it. Like I feel like that's what happened yesterday, where I took Evan Mobley's over in points, assists, rebounds, and Caris LeVert. I was tracking his injury, and he was tracking to return Wednesday. But I was like, it's a little weird. The spread's as big as it is. And then all of a sudden, like an hour before the game, Caris LeVert's starting in the lineup. And I was like, you're telling me that the spread doesn't move, but like randomly they get this major pat, like, you know what I mean? I was like, there's no way that spread should have been where it was unless he was playing. And then all of a sudden he was playing, but no one knew. And I was like, they knew. They
Yep,
knew.
yep. There's that information, and that does make it seem like maybe Cade's not playing to have that drop 3 points.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. Yeah.
all right, man. Well, let's talk about the fourth game of the day, the Suns at the Pelicans. Honestly, like out of these, maybe one I'd be interested to watch. Phoenix -6, 226.5 total on this one.
Yeah, this is you picked a bad day to have me on the show with the Suns on the lineup.
I did that on purpose. Yeah.
Did you really? Yeah. So weirdly enough, in this show, as we've been talking, I did take DeAndre Ayton's line at 17.5 plus 100. It just dropped to 16.5, which I obviously like more. But at the same time, when he drops 30, it won't really matter. So like I don't like, yeah. I mean, he does score in twos, so I do think 17.5 at plus 100 just still has good value because I'm not like too broken about it. But it's always a little frightening when you see like sharp money come in on the opposite of your line. So that's an interesting one. Maybe the fade the public today is his over, which would be great for me. But no, so I always like if you're not familiar and like people probably get like tired of it, I do bet DeAndre Ayton's over in points every single game of every single season. And there's like a reason to it because I think we've talked about like before with like modeling and like trends, and I'm a big trend better. The way that he plays is actually hilariously awesome because in 8 of his last 11 games, so it's an 8 of 11. I'm bad at math, but it's like 85%, right? I think
78%, something like that.
Yeah. It's like 73%, like 73% of the games his last 11, he's gone over his points line, but the 3 he's missed, like he's dropping like 6 and 8. And he had one where it was close. But he'll have these games where his ceiling will be like, 20 points and he'll hit you over, or he'll drop 6. And the way that works is just it's so beautiful because his average stays so low. So
Yeah.
Vegas sets their line. So I'm not gonna get too into it, but so I take this every day because he's scored, like I said, 17 or more points. So he's hit that line 8 of his last 11, which is like a good already. But Vegas sets their line a lot on volume as well. So one of the reasons I bet on him a lot is because on the season, he's only averaging. Let me see, I gotta make sure I got this right. Yeah, he's only averaging 12.7 field goals a game. So an 18, like a 17.5 line for a guy taking less than 13 shots a game, Vegas line setters, that volume's not there. Like he's not seeing the volume that you're seeing a lot of the guys. I think his most field goals in the whole year was 19 one game. Like he does not take a high volume of shots, so his line is set really low. But weirdly enough, what's not being talked about in this like season is that he's actually on pace for historic shooting, like a historic shooting season. He is shooting 40% of his shots, 40% of his shots he's taken from 3 to 10 feet, right? Like that 3 to 10 feet range. So not at the rim. And he's shooting 64% from that range, which is like, that would go down as like one of the most efficient scoring seasons since Wilt Chamberlain. He's in that range of efficiency. So like, he's not getting this volume, but he's just like scoring 18 on 11 shots, like repeatedly, which like is kind of crazy that you're casting these overs on a guy that's not really seeing his high volume. Because like there's only 5 starting centers in that range that like currently that have in that range are shooting over 50%, and he's up there at like 64. So like that efficiency creates this amazing trend where if you bet it every day, he's hit 70% of his lines the last like season and a half. So I just put a unit on it every single game, and the long-term game has just reaped a lot of rewards.
Makes a ton of sense, man. When I was looking, he's over 70% from the field in 8 of his last 10 games. And I mean, plenty more before that, but just to your point of how he's shooting.
Yeah. So like people like
insanely high.
It's funny because like I'm like the biggest like DeAndre Ayton fan account on Twitter, but it's like people don't understand that I don't bet him emotionally as a fan or like as a like whatever. I bet him because he's made me so much money because he kind of breaks all the typical trends and props that you see. Like he doesn't see high field goal. he doesn't he doesn't have consistency in terms of like his volume on a day-to-day, a game-to-game basis. But long term, he's hitting his lines that they set. Like there was a point last year where he was averaging 14.8 points a game, and his line was consistently 12.5. It's the only time you see that. So for me, the long game here is just to keep playing it each game, and then it's gonna, eventually, if Vegas ever set a line that I didn't like, I wouldn't take it. But it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So I have one prop to ask you about. I'm going to say, like, in terms of side and total on this game for me, if anything, I would take Phoenix here. McCollum's game time decision, he's probably back. But Phoenix has been playing really well, and the Pelicans have not been playing much defense, either with or without McCollum. But here's the reason I'm staying away from this game is this just has the feel to me, again, of a game where both teams just show up and kind of like mess around for 3 quarters and then see what happens in the fourth. I could be wrong about that, but like these are the kind of games I just don't feel like there's going to be the intensity there, and I tend to stay away from those games. So I'm not betting a side or a total on this one.
Yeah, and like the one thing is I would lean Phoenix in a total only because they have kind of made it clear in like terms of like the front office that they are in a weird way kind of gunning for that like season record for the Suns.
Okay.
But, like they kind of like I mentioned that like they want all the banners and like they're on pace to break the most wins in the regular season. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win every game or they're going to compete or like cover a spread every game. But that is definitely one to like I would lean that. But it's one of those things where the fact it's -6 had me thinking that CJ's playing, because if CJ wasn't playing,
I agree.
It'd be a -6 spread, or it opened -5.5. I think. I just don't think it opened 5.5 if they really thought it was going to be Ingram and I just don't think that's.
Yeah, I mean, so Ingram's out, and I would say if Ingram and McCollum both played, I would line this game at like 5.
That's what I'm saying. The fact that
It feels like a good spread for Phoenix.
Yeah. So if it was both of them out, I just didn't see this being 5.5, which is why I'm waiting.
Agreed.
Like I'll just see what happens, but there's no way they're missing 2 of their players, and they're just going to go against the Suns that have proven that they have the depth to beat, the All-Star Lakers, by 40. So,
man, so good. One interesting stat I did find on this game is, so it's the front end of a back-to-back for them, and this isn't against the spread, but they are 10-1 straight up on the front end of a back-to-back this year. So it's been a good spot for them overall. So anyway, I had one other prop I wanted to throw at you because I know you're the Jay Crowder whisperer. So one of the positive matchups from some of the data that I was looking at here is Jay Crowder's threes against the Pelicans.
Yeah, he's been
any thoughts on that?
No, what's the line at? Is it 1.5 or is it 2.5?
It would be at 1.5, but probably juiced because I looked at 3 or more is plus 200, 4 or more is plus 650.
I would be safe and just go for like 6+. That's just me, like 6+ threes. That's fine with that alt line. No, he's like that 3-and-D guy there where it's actually interesting. I'm looking, they have him listed for 3 and 4. 3+ is plus 230. Yeah, he's getting the volume from 3. I mean, it's without Chris Paul, people kind of assumed that like this offense would kind of fall apart and they wouldn't be able to like run their same PNR offense and like all that good stuff. But Cameron Payne has come in, and I had doubts on if he can actually make an outlet pass, but he's been looking like really good running that offense. I mean, it's a little bit more scattered than like the calm and collective Chris Paul usually is, but like guys are getting looks. I think Jay Crowder had 3 threes last game against the Lakers.
I'll have to go look. I'm looking at a couple different things right now. What was the last game Chris Paul played? 216.
It was before the All-Star break. Yeah.
Yeah. So since Chris Paul went out, I was just looking at his attempts. The first couple games he only had 3 and 4, but since then he's had 4 twice and 7 or more in every other game.
Yeah.
And so like he's generally getting a lot of volume of 3-point shots.
So Jay Crowder is a guy that I compare. This is not a talent comparison. This is nothing like that. But like people when they talk about, let's say, like Duncan Robinson, it's the same kind of thing where there was a game where Jay Crowder I think went 1 for 10 from 3, against
There
Orlando.
it
And
is. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
and
Yep.
they still won the game, and it was like whatever. But like obviously you don't want to shoot 1 for 10, but there's a reason he shot 1 for 10 and not 1 for 3. Is because the spacing he brings as that 3 and D like kind of player, he brings value to the offense by still taking those shots. So you can feel like comfortable taking his threes in a good matchup, like the Pelicans, where he's hit 2 and I think 3 already against him this year, because he will take the volume because that's his role in the offense. Like you won't see many games where he'll shoot 0 for 2 from 3 because his role is to spread the floor out. And if you're spreading the floor out in a PNR offense, eventually you'll get switches and you'll get open looks.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, also in the last 10 games, he's shot 40% or better from 3 in 8 out of the 10. So yeah,
Yeah,
he has had a couple bad games, like you said, the 1 for
high
10,
variance,
not good, but
it's a high variance prop, but the volume is what really matters.
yep. All right, cool. This is me trying to be the newbie throwing some prop stuff in
Oh,
here, but
yeah.
well, hey, I want before we go, you have a pretty sweet 9-0 record going right now that lots of people on Twitter are excited about. So talk to us about it.
It's funny because no one really cares about my capping anymore or like my actual props. Everyone just talks about the fact that I'm just doing this stupid thing. Now, yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm going to touch on it a little bit later because I'm going to put out a video because basically it just running. I'm like a stockbroker for the prop value right now, and I run my own prediction model and I run my own projection for players and their projected lines. But I've noticed as a trend in the NBA, basically that whenever a large market size or a large even if you just scroll on Twitter, you see a lot of people in the same play. It always seems to be like missing a lot. So I basically have just been running, my projected expected value on certain lines, not based off the line itself, but just based off the line movement. Because the perfect example was Jay Crowder, which is funny you brought him up, because Jay Crowder against the Lakers, he opened 10.5 -110 both sides, and then he ended 11.5 -110 both sides. And I picked that line as my under 11.5. And people kind of were like, not outraged, but they were like, oh, I see more people on this guy, or I see this one more popular. And popularity is part of it. But basically, I'm trying to find the expected value that has shifted over because of the line movement. Because for a guy like Jay Crowder, like we talked about, he's taking a large quantity of threes, and I think he's averaging under 2 point attempts a game. So just like the expected value you're getting at over 10.5 and under 11.5 is like a huge swing. It doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people are like, oh, this guy likes 10.5. What's one more point? But like in terms of line movement and like the mathematical value you get in a certain line, that 1 point shift was like the highest rated shift I had on the board, and he ended at 11, which people thought was like magic that I said like 11 was a pivot point and he ended at 11. It's not magic. It's really just math and expected value. But it was actually really cool for me to see him end at 11 because it was kind of like the cherry on top of like this whole thing I was trying to do. Because at first I think people thought I was just trying to be like an awful D bag that was like taking their unders just for like fun. But that's not really what it is. It's not like a capping experiment. It's not a screw your play experiment. It's just like a experiment based off, line movement and expected value based off the opening line. Because if you have Vegas setting a line and it gets inflated to a point, eventually the value crosses over where it provides value for the under. So that's a lot of nerd stuff. I mean, I was always a guy that played all the sports in school, but people thought because I was like that guy that was like a jock or whatever, I didn't have a brain. But like quietly, I was like also the GPA booster on the bench. I was like a GPA booster that actually played, so it was a good balance in my college career.
And got all the girls, and I mean, just
No,
you
no,
name
actually,
it, right?
they all ran away. They all ran
Oh,
away.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's more of a personality thing. It was more of personality and looks. They didn't like the combination. No one really does, but other than that,
It's astounding. It's
yeah, it's
astounding.
astounding. Yeah, they missed out. That's what my mom always told me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks for jumping back on today. Anything you want to say about where it's best for people to find you or kind of what you're doing these days?
No, just like just throw like a stone in the water and then see what comes out. Like, no, on Twitter right there, same thing. Brian versus the books. Yeah, I post all my plays on Twitter. I'm in JD's Discord, which is like another thing I do where that's more prop projections I'm doing. So yeah, all the tweets I make, like I tweet all my plays for free. I track everything. So basically, like the one thing with me is like I'm a very eval grinder. All singles. I don't really do many parlays, but you'll just make sure that like I'll never be the guy that, like will post something after the fact and be like, "Can you believe I hit this?" Like, yeah. So everything I play personally, I'll tweet out.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. So yeah, definitely look Brian up online. So I have been playing a few bigger parlays, especially on UFC. And the one time, like I hate when people do it after the fact too. And it
Oh,
was late at night and whatever. And I hit a big one and I posted it the
oh,
next morning. But the next morning I literally felt like shit. So I woke up and I was like, guys, I shouldn't have posted this. That's exactly what I said I don't like people doing.
yeah.
So, it was kind of dumb, but
This
you
is
know.
why I don't win bets. So that way no one can hate me. Like
Yeah.
if I never win, then no one can get on my case. So that's why I'm going for just like
Funny.
a very low average chance.
Oh, that's funny. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for jumping back on, man. It's good to see you, and hope everybody has a good day. And I'm sure both of us will be talking to you on Twitter.
All right, sounds good.
All right.